when does regular season Rick not become regular season Rick? And I'm going to ask the question that it's not today's tough question, but I might put it on the poll as well. And it's time for what the H?
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
Please hit that like and subscribe button. Is Rick Barnes' career on the line this March? Not perhaps next March when he brings in a great class, which he may or may not do. Not the following year, but this year he'll be 70 this summer. He has a special player that can manufacture points. He has, Caleb, unless you disagree, I would say the best roster he has had from top to bottom, even though he doesn't play them all. Is Rick Barnes ultimately going to be judged by this tournament run or lack thereof? I don't know that he's going to have a better team at any point in his career. He's 70 this summer.
If Rick Barnes can't win the NCAA tournament or go far in the NCAA tournament this year.
What's far? Define far.
He needs to make at least an Elite Eight run. And that's a disappointment. It's a disappointment if he doesn't go to the Final Four, but Elite Eight is the minimum. And I can say this: if he makes an Elite Eight run this year, he'll be the most successful basketball coach in Tennessee history, bar none. But
yes, that's not saying
I can give him that. That's not saying a lot. He will surpass Ray Mears and Bruce Pearl, who I think right now both of them are still ahead of Rick Barnes at this particular moment.
So
if he
go ahead. Sorry.
If he makes an Elite Eight run, I will say he's the best, and I will say that's fine because anything can happen with the Elite Eight. You know, best teams don't always win it all. That's fine. If he flames out in the first weekend again, or if he loses to a lower seed again in the tournament, there is nothing he'll be able to do next year to have Tennessee fans have faith in him. What could he do, Dave? Like what? He'll still be there because when you're Tennessee basketball, you look at the history of the program and you're like, hey, you know, you talked about prioritizing and valuing certain sports last week with the Lady Vols. I think Tennessee basketball is not like the Lady Vols, but it is on a level of Danny White's probably saying, as long as this program's relevant, I'm satisfied with Rick Barnes because it's generating the money it needs to.
Elijah read my mind about the Final Four. Sorry, you were going to finish, Caleb?
Yeah, so I think that on a general sense, I don't think this has any impact with Danny White's perspective, because I think Danny White approaches men's basketball the way you think he should approach the Lady Vols. Now, men's basketball is a revenue producer, but Danny White is like, it's all about football. As long as men's basketball is producing a base level of revenue, I don't really care what they do to go far in the tournament. And I think with Rick Barnes, you produce that base level of revenue. But if they flame out this year, he may not be producing that next year. Because, Dave, I got a question. Do you think anybody's going to care what Tennessee's doing in the regular season next year if Rick Barnes doesn't go far this year? Do you think they'll have any analysis of the team to say this team is different? They'll have no reason to believe anything, will they?
No, but I think that already happened. Apathy is what you're talking about. Apathy at the national media level, I think, already happened. Why in the world was Dalton Knecht not getting more talk about player of the year? We can say if he'd have played in North Carolina, yes, he would have. But the guy at Purdue is getting attention, which he should, and won it last year for player of the year. Edie, Purdue is not North Carolina or Duke. You can get big time respect at a non-blue blood program, but you better not be a part of a program and under a coach that's known for doing bupkis in March.
Well, yes, it already happened in national. It already happened in national media, but Rick Barnes, local media saw something different about this team. You've been saying all year this team is different, Dave, than the previous year teams Rick Barnes has coached.
Because of Dalton. That's the only reason.
Because of Dalton. So local media had a reason to believe this team is different. So because of that, there was still a glimmer of hope to say, okay, it could happen now. But nobody. But if he doesn't go far this year, Dave, don't you think local media and local fans will have the apathy next year? At that point, I mean, it kind of got to the point with Remember when LeBron lost the finals in 2011 to the Mavs his first year with the Heat? Nobody watched him play the regular season next year. Everybody was like, I don't care anymore. You got to win in the finals at this point.
Okay,
And
Caleb, you didn't go crazy earlier, but you've gone crazy, Caleb, now. You've gone crazy, Caleb, now. Because you're talking about apathy on a team that won how many games this year? How many did they win?
24,
What?
25. I
20?
believe it's 24.
Yeah. Whatever, the mid-20s, made the NCAA tournament as a 2 seed. Apathy sets in at 10 wins a year. Apathy sets in when I'm in college and Wade Houston's the coach. And honestly, I did not know. And then Kevin O'Neill took over. I did not know if there was a basketball game that night, and I lived on campus. How crazy is that, Caleb? There were times I wasn't sure because that was apathy. What you're talking about is not even in the ballpark. And thanks to our good friend T. Scott Jones and Banks and Jones, the show represented by Banks and Jones, I was able to attend a Tennessee basketball game, and those fans were fervent. They were excited. 30 seconds, and why Caleb is undervaluing Tennessee's fan base, their passion, and their loyalty, Ray Varner Ford.
Welcome to Ray Varner Ford in Clinton, where every turn meets new possibilities and every mile celebrates the cutting-edge innovation within our Ford lineup. Elevate your journey in this new 2023 F-150 4x4 Super Cab, $44,992. A 2023 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,952. 2023 F-150 4x4 Super Crew XLT, $54,900. Local you trust, innovation you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
I think you're being way unfair to Tennessee's fan base. They showed up mostly for Dooley. They showed up for Butch. Always want to drop a U for an eye on that. They showed up for Jeremy Pruitt. Prospects have shown up because of the fan loyalty. If Tennessee's knocking on the door of an NCAA tournament, I think they're going to have a rabid fan base. I don't think this matters. I think national media, so I'm throwing two things at you. I think national media will view Rick Barnes moving forward as they don't need to spend as much time on the Vols or wherever he may be coaching because they're not going to do anything in March. I think it'll hurt them from a publicity perspective, but I don't think you should sell Tennessee's fan base short.
Apathy goes two ways. The first way is, like you said, 10 wins a game. You know the program's terrible. You don't want to give it any money. The other way apathy sets in is if you're watching a team and you realize that they've already reached, there is no new, that they're not going to compete for a national title, and there's no new height they could possibly reach that they haven't already reached. So, and what I mean by that is Tennessee, if you're watching Tennessee basketball and you know your ceiling is the NCAA round of 32, like you just know that verifiably for a fact, you are going to actually lose a lot. You are going to have a lot of apathy set in over time.
So are you telling me then that it's Final Four or bust for Tennessee's fan base? Or is it Elite Eight or bust? Or is it Sweet 16 or bust? What is it?
I'm saying it's Final Four or disappointment, Elite Eight or bust. Difference between disappointment and bust.
So if they just make the 16, you think Tennessee as a whole, as a fan base, is like, I'm done with regular season, Rick?
Yes. How many times are they going to make the Sweet 16 and not go further? And this is a problem. You have to give your fan, short of a national title, you have to give your fans something to believe that they can be better than what they are if you don't want apathy to sit in. Dave, you're a Cowboy fan. You know this.
Oh, well, that's actually a fantastic comparison. I'm as apathetic as they come because I know that they're may make the playoffs on their both years, but also know that they'll on their best years, but I also know that they'll have fans touring the weight room because of potential, because they need to make more money while the guys are working out. I know that they inflate guys' contracts. I know they're overcovered. So that's actually a very good comparison because I miss Cowboys games now. Up until the mid 2000s, like 2005-ish, I never, ever missed a game. And I was a huge Cowboys fan before they won 3 Super Bowls. I hope you trust me on that. I watched the 1 in 15, the 3 and 13 season. I can tell you who they beat in those years. But you're right. Success apathy would be what Tennessee fans would have. I have success apathy with the Dallas Cowboys. That's maybe the best comparison you've ever made.
Yeah, and let's actually bring it to football because you brought it up with the football program and everybody they set through. Dave, I think we're forgetting this covering. But you covered the 98 Tennessee team. But I think we're forgetting, because that 98 team rewrote the narrative, aren't we forgetting that Tennessee football was dangerously close to a little bit of apathy after constantly losing to Florida each year, and saying that there was a feeling that Fulmer would never get over the hump, wasn't there? Until that 98 team?
There was success apathy. There was success apathy at Florida. And that's why Steve Spurrier retired. He says, if you can't win 10 games around here and people be happy, what are we doing?
But Spurrier had already proven that he could win a national title when the success apathy hit in.
No, but I think there was success apathy after the 98 season, too. I think it was like, if you can't get in the national championship game, because we're just talking about a 2-team playoff back then. If you can't get in that game, it's just I think there was success apathy after.
But you at least believe getting into the game was possible. There was a period in the 90s where fans at Tennessee started to believe that it was just never going to happen, right? They were never going to get over the hump of Florida with Fulmer at the helm. There was a genuine belief of that.
No. Is Rick Barnes' career on the line this March? 21% say yes. Can't be regular season Rick anymore. 79% no. Great career no matter what. Caleb, if one day you're working like crazy on Off the Hook Sports, and it grows and it's tremendous in 5 years, and ESPN comes to you and they say, we've got to hire you. We're going to throw a lot of money at you, and Dave can't match that, even though I know what they pay, and I'm sure as hell try. If you left Off the Hook Sports in a better place, shouldn't I appreciate that? If Rick Barnes retires, I think you would have to say Tennessee's basketball program is in a better place than it was when he took over. Isn't that the sign of a great coach?
Yes, Rick Barnes has done a great job, but there is the having to take it to the next level. And I think that's where you would say that Rick Barnes hasn't been able to do yet. I mean, there's the developing, and then there's the winning it all. Look, Doug Collins did a lot of good with Michael Jordan when he was coach of the Bulls, but they believed that they couldn't get over the hump until they got Phil Jackson and named him
Tex Winners.
And Tex Winners, yeah.
The assistant coach who developed the triangle offense.
And also, it's funny, you bring up the ESPN thing, or, working here. Dave, for those who don't know, and I mean, we'll just talk about it up front, like, I had a debate with myself leaving my previous position before I came to you, right? And started working with you.
I guess you did.
We no, we did. We talked about it. What did I talk about with you? And we're not going to talk money or details, but what I said is
good.
What I could get from Dave now, I know it could be more in 5 years. I knew that what I was getting off from the old place.
Not financially, just exposure, growth.
Even financially, though, I knew I could get, I knew it would grow in 5 years from what you were offering me from when I started. I knew what the other place was offering me. That's exactly what I was going to get 5 years from then. You know what I mean? And it was like,
right.
You work, and we've all worked at corporations, Dave. How often you've worked at corporations when you know you have a max of what you're going to make, no matter what happens, no matter what you do, doesn't apathy kick in for your job at that point? Like, what do you care? There's no way you can go over this.
Yeah, it's called 2010 for Dave. I'd accomplished quite a bit, and I got maybe a little bit bored and want to do something else. So this job never gets boring. So I can certainly promise you that. Do we want to get to this day in Tennessee sports history, or do we want to continue to talk about how Rick Barnes very much his resume will be defined by what he does this year? I believe that. I think this is the last shot for a real one. Elias says, who would they hire to replace Rick Barnes if he retired? Blake, we don't know. It's Rick Barnes' last year. He turned 70 this summer. I got a weird feeling he'll retire. Steve Forbes, who coached under Bruce Pearl and is at Wake right now, has done a great job. but I think Danny White is too much of a salesman, and he'll want a coach that also comes with a good style. Steve Forbes is defense, and then when you get the ball, play a little more defense. So I don't.
But he does play the same tempo Bruce Pearl runs. But you're right, and Steve Forbes hasn't yet made an NCAA tournament at Wake Forest in 4 years. So
yes, in other words, I love Steve Forbes like on a personal level. I think he's a great guy, but I think Tennessee could do a little bit better than that.